Imagine singing on one of rock's most famous love songs and never seeing a single penny for writing it. Sounds unreal, right? But that's exactly what happened. The song topped charts in 8 countries, has been played at countless weddings and proms since 1984, yet the singer, the heart and soul behind the vocals, got zero credit for songwriting. Meanwhile, the guitarist claimed full writing credit and still cashes the royalty checks. This is the story of Foreigner, their hit, I Want to Know What Love Is, and the messy reality behind the music business. Let's rewind to 1976. A British guitarist, Mick Jones, wasn't a rookie. He had already played in Spooky Tooth and done sessions with big names like Peter Frampton and George Harrison. He had talent, experience, and connections, and a vision, to create a band blending British rock's edge with American appeal. So, he moved to New York and started putting together the pieces. That's when he met Lou Gramm, a singer from Rochester, New York. Lou's voice was raw, powerful, and full of soul, the kind of voice that could make even the simplest lyrics unforgettable. Mick wrote the riffs, Lou turned them into weapons of emotion. The lineup expanded. Ian MacDonald, guitar and keyboards. Al Greenwood. Ed Gagliardi. Dennis Elliott. 3 Brits, 3 Americans, hence, Foreigner. Their first album hit like a bomb. 5 million copies sold in the US, chart toppers like Feels Like the First Time and Cold as Ice. Not a single filler track, every song packed a punch. 1978 brought Double Vision, and the band exploded even bigger. Hits like Hot Blooded rocketed up the charts, arenas filled, and the money rolled in. But success came with tension. 6 members meant 6 opinions, 6 splits of profit, and 6 creative voices. Mick Jones preferred control. His vision, his way. By 1979, bassist Ed Gagliardi was out, officially for creative differences, unofficially because his input no longer aligned with Mick's vision. Ed, a founding member, never fully received what he arguably deserved. He later passed away in 2014 after battling cancer. 1980 shook the band further. Both founding members Ian MacDonald and Al Greenwood were dismissed. Ian, co-founder of the legendary progressive rock band King Crimson, was suddenly told he wasn't needed. Greenwood felt betrayed but had no power to stop it. Mick wanted to assert that this was his band, and he did. In less than 2 years, 3 founding members were gone. Yet outside the band, the world barely noticed, because what came next, the hits, the fame, the arena-filling sound, overshadowed the departures entirely. So Foreigner shrinks from 6 members down to 4. And then everything changes. In 1981, they release an album aptly named 4. Because, well, there were now 4 of them. Subtle, right? But the impact was anything but subtle. The album exploded onto the Billboard charts, debuting at number 1 and holding that spot for 10 consecutive weeks. Urgent dominated the airwaves, driven by that unforgettable Junior Walker sax solo cutting through every speaker in the country. Jukebox Hero became a generation-defining anthem, every kid with a bedroom mirror and a guitar, or tennis racket, was airplaying along to that opening riff. And, Waiting for a Girl Like You, spent 10 straight weeks at number 2, blocked from the top spot only by Olivia Newton-John's Physical. Imagine being that close to history and being held back by leg warmers and headbands. The album went platinum 7 times over, 7 million copies in the US alone. Foreigner had never been bigger. And from Mick Jones's perspective, trimming 3 members down to 4 was pure genius. The band was tighter, the sound more focused, and his share of the royalties even bigger. But he wasn't finished yet. Fast forward to 1984, and this is where things get messy. Jones and Lou Gramm step into the studio to record Agent Provocateur. Jones had a song that would become legendary, I Want to Know What Love Is. Love it or hate power ballads, this track was destined for the top. Jones brought in a massive production. The New Jersey Mass Choir, Jennifer Holliday, gospel singers filling the studio with soaring harmonies, clapping, and energy that lifted the song into another stratosphere. Then Lou Gramm stepped into the vocal booth and delivered one of the decade's most unforgettable performances. Every note dripped with emotion, pain, vulnerability, soul. The kind of voice that makes listeners pause, roll down the windows, and take it in. When his voice cracks on the chorus, you know it's not showmanship. It's raw, human feeling captured on tape. Here's the kicker, the songwriting credits. Up to this point, Gramm and Jones had shared writing duties, sometimes 50-50, sometimes 60-40 in Jones's favor. Gramm wasn't just a performer, he contributed melodies, lyrical ideas, and vocal arrangements. On previous hits like Waiting for a Girl Like You and Urgent, he had co-writing credit. He believed he was a partner in the creative process. But for I Want to Know What Love Is, Jones completely changed the rules. He offered Gramm only 5% of the songwriting credit, a fraction for a song that Gramm helped shape, a song his voice turned into a defining hit for the band, the song that would become their biggest success ever. Lou Gramm was furious. When Mick Jones suggested a tiny slice of credit for I Want to Know What Love Is, Gramm reportedly snapped back sarcastically, "Fine, you keep it all." And Jones did exactly that. 100% of the songwriting credit went to Jones. Gramm? 0. Not 5%, not 1%, literally nothing. Then the song exploded. Number 1 in the US, number 1 in the UK, number 1 in Australia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Ireland, Italy, 8 countries in total. It became one of rock's most played and licensed songs ever, movies, TV shows, commercials, even sporting events. Artists from Mariah Carey to Julio Iglesias covered it. Every royalty check generated, all went to Mick Jones. Lou Gramm, the voice that defined the song, got nothing, not a single cent for more than 4 decades. Gramm spoke openly about it. He called Jones dishonest, greedy, and unyielding, saying his hardline stance cost Gramm millions over the years. He received no recognition from peers, no co-writing credit, nothing. And he was right. Whenever people reference I Want to Know What Love Is, Mick Jones's name is the one that shows up. The man whose voice carried the song to immortality. Erased from the paperwork. The betrayal damaged their relationship beyond repair. Gramm continued working with Jones for a while, but the collaboration was poisoned. By the late 80s, Jones had full control, no pretense of partnership. Gramm was essentially a hired performer, reading the songs Jones had written and arranged, like a session musician whose face just happened to be on the album cover. By 1990, Lou Gramm had had enough. He left the band, refusing to be one of rock's greatest voices with nothing to show for it on paper. But fate had more in store. In 1997, Gramm was diagnosed with a brain tumor, a dangerous one wrapped around his pituitary gland, sitting behind his eyes, entangled in the very wiring that controls vital functions. The surgery was complex and grueling, and doctors warned him to get his affairs in order. He survived, but the aftermath was brutal. The tumor destroyed his pituitary gland, disrupting his hormones and metabolism. His weight skyrocketed, memory faltered, and he couldn't even recall lyrics to songs he had sung for decades. 2 decades of his life, music, performance, artistry, seemed wiped away. Even worse, his management pressured him to keep performing. Just 1 month after surgery, despite medical advice to rest for 18 months, Gramm went on a world tour. Barely able to stand, he improvised a system. Handwritten lyric cards arranged around his microphone, which he used like a teleprompter. He stood there, gripping the mic, squinting at notes, trying to remember words to classics like Hot-Blooded. He performed this way for years, not months. Only in 2004 did he finally feel like himself again. 7 years of singing in a haze, knowing the audience could sense something was off, knowing management cared only about ticket sales, not his health. Lou Graham's voice gave life to an anthem of a generation, yet for decades, he endured betrayal, lost royalties, and near-death health crises, all while the music he made continued to thrive. Eventually, Lou Graham returned to Foreigner, hoping to rekindle the old magic. But nothing really changed. Mick Jones was still in charge. Graham was back in the booth, but he wasn't a partner anymore, just a hired voice. The years had only chipped away at his patience and worn down his health. By 2003, Lou had had enough. He walked away for good this time. Finished. Done. And then Mick Jones did what he does best, he kept the machine running. Jones replaced Graham with singer Kelly Hansen and then gradually swapped out every other member. Drummers, keyboardists, bassists, all gone. Session players and hired guns filled the stage. Foreigner continued touring, playing Jukebox Hero, Hot-Blooded, Cold as Ice every night to packed arenas. But the band on stage was no longer the band that created the music, it was Jones and a revolving cast of employees. Then in 2024, the news came, Mick Jones had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. His hands no longer worked like they used to. The guitarist who had built this empire, brick by brick, was forced to watch from the sidelines. Foreigner went on a farewell tour, but there wasn't a single original member on stage. Not one. Legally, the band name remained, but it was essentially a professional cover band performing someone else's history. And then came the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, October 2024. After decades of being dismissed as too commercial or mainstream, Foreigner finally received the recognition they'd long deserved. You might expect a reunion, a celebration, a moment where old wounds could heal. But no. The original members were told, on the very afternoon of the ceremony, that they would not be performing. The Kelly Hansen lineup, with 0 original members, would play instead. Dennis Elliott, the drummer who had kept the heartbeat of every classic Foreigner track, refused to attend. Al Greenwood, a founding member ousted decades earlier, stayed home. Lou Graham gave a speech, trying to be gracious, talking about forgiveness and letting go of old grudges. But privately, he admitted it stung. They had pulled a fast one on the people who actually made the music. The result? The creators of these iconic songs had to sit in the audience while strangers performed their work on their biggest night. It was insult piled on injury. And yet, the story is also a masterclass in one man's systematic control. Mick Jones systematically removed the people who built the band, claimed sole credit for their biggest hit, marginalized the singer who gave him fame, and replaced everyone else until the band became his personal corporation. Even at the Rock Hall, where the celebration was meant to honor those who bled for this music, the originals were sidelined, while the replacement band performed their songs. And still, every royalty check from I Want to Know What Love Is goes straight to Mick Jones. Lou Graham, the voice that immortalized the song, gets nothing. On paper, he's worth 0. Yet the catalog sells 80 million records, plays on every radio station worldwide, and keeps generating money every single day. Lou Graham created something timeless. But when it came to credit and compensation for the work that mattered most, he was erased. Mick Jones built a legacy, controlled the empire, and never had to answer for it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon.